Storylines Drop 3 just came out a couple days ago, so in today's video, we're going to be doing all the cutscenes from the Negro League Season 4, which has just been so much fun to play with. So you'll have all the timestamp listed for all the different players and all the cutscenes, so definitely go check that out if you want to watch a certain player, or you haven't gotten to a certain one, or you want to watch it again, because honestly, I love storylines. It's one of the best things they've ever done to this game, so here's all the cutscenes with my reaction. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy the video, guys. Play. Oh, the intro. Hold on now. Oh, I think I've seen this one.
The soundtrack of America. Yet some of its greatest songs and some of its greatest legends were nearly silenced. So they created their own song instead, with their own teams, on their own stages, and with powerful instruments, showcased a symphony of greatness. Tempo, power, style. Pitchers who threw so fast, you'd swear you could hear the seam sing. Hitters whose thunderous percussion made baseballs disappear into the night sky.
Yeah, just give me one second.
Players who were pitch perfect. They played for pride, for a tomorrow not promised. In perfect rhythm, for the love of the game. And though the box scores fade, their legacies will not. Their song is one of history, of perseverance, of courage. These are the legends. These are their stories. This is the Negro Leagues.
Man, I just love this thing.
One of the little-known factoids about the Negro Leagues, and I think it's something that gives baseball fans an understanding of the immediate impact that the Negro Leagues had on Major League Baseball after Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier in 1947, is the fact that from 1949 through 1959, 9 of 11 National League MVPs were former Negro League stars. Well, the great Roy Campanella won 3 of those MVPs.
Roy Campanella aims to catch the flying Phils as he blasts a tremendous three-bagger to right center field.
Campy, as he was affectionately known, started his legendary professional baseball career, believe it or not, as a 15-year-old kid.
That's crazy.
Catching for a semi-pro team called the Baccarat Giants. He was so impressive that he would later join the Baltimore Elite Giants. Can you imagine a 15-year-old kid catching professionally? But as I tell folks, Roy Campanella was not your typical 15-year-old. Hall of Famer Raleigh Biz Mackey would take a young Roy Campanella under his wing and taught him the art of catching. Roy Campanella would become one of the greatest catchers, not in black baseball history, but in baseball history. Campy had all the tools you needed to be a great catcher. Number one, he was built like a fire plug. They say he weighed 205 pounds when he joined the Elites. He was probably bigger than that, but it was the perfect body type to play catcher. And he had a great arm, a rifle arm, and a quick release. And he threw out a great deal of base runners. It makes me wonder what would have happened had Campy gotten to the major leagues even earlier than what he did. He had already caught for about 9 seasons in the Negro Leagues before he finally gets called up to join the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's a lot of wear and tear on a body, particularly playing that position of catcher. It just makes you wonder. He was already great, but how much greater could he have been if he'd gotten there earlier? Had the circumstances been a little bit different, Campy likely would have been the first black to play in the major leagues. The Philadelphia Phillies had offered him a tryout, but when the Phillies found out that he was of mixed race, which in this case made him black, they backed away from that notion of signing him. And
Crazy.
of course, Roy Campanella would have to wait his turn to get to the major leagues. Branch Rickey had actually set up a meeting with Roy Campanella to talk to him about joining the Dodgers. Roy Campanella declined the offer because he thought that Rickey was talking about the Brooklyn Brown Dodgers, the Negro Leagues team.
Oh, no.
And when Roy Campanella meets up with Jackie Robinson, he tells him the story, and Jackie says, no, he wants to sign you to the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, Campy had thought he'd blown his opportunity. He sends a telegraph to Rickey. Rickey responds back, and of course, the rest is history.
No way.
Roy Campanella's first plate appearance in the major leagues, guess what? He got hit. But that was pretty common for those black players when they made their way into the major leagues. The opposing pitchers were going to send them a message. And I think in many ways they were trying to break their will. And Campy got right back in the batter's box and he started swinging. And as I oftentimes said, with those Negro League players, they not only were swinging to play the game, but they were swinging for hope, justice, and civil rights at the same time.
I'ma do all that I gotta do. Go back to my hood. They say that we proud of you. Over the family, we gotta shoot.
Okay, let's lock in.
Roy Campanella was well on his way to what would become a Hall of Fame career. He was doing everything you could possibly do in this game, and he was absolutely on a tremendous ascent. 3 MVPs already in his career. He hit 242 home runs while driving in 856 runs in only 1,215 games. A sports writer once described Roy Campanella as being indestructible. And on the baseball diamond, he essentially was. But sadly, a tragic car accident left Roy paralyzed and cut short what would still become a Hall of Fame career after only 10 seasons in the major leagues. And in many ways, that accident snatched the soul away from the Dodgers, because that's the presence that Roy Campanella had on that Dodgers team.
I always believe that any professional athlete, to be good, you have to have a little boy in you.
Now, to Campy's credit, he who had always been a very jovial, jolly giant of a man, Campy would say, the only thing that has been damaged is my body, not my mind. And he would use that baseball mind to help teach a lot of young Dodger prospects and players the intricacies of this game. He spent the last 35 years of his life in a wheelchair, but he spent those 35 years giving back what Biz Mackey had given to him, and that was baseball knowledge.
Damn, that's like incredibly sad. Hey man, be safe when you're driving, bro. That's the moral of the story, bro.
Don't worry about the mule going blind. Just load the wagon and give me the line. Yeah. That was the great George Suttles, or Mule Suttles, as he was affectionately known by fans of the Negro Leagues for so many years. I guess you could say that was Mule's way to let his teammates know, don't worry, y'all get on my back, and I'll carry you there. And you know what? He did just that. We're talking about a guy who walked softly, but he carried a big stick, a 50-ounce bat. That's a treat. And while he would occasionally strike out, because I can't even imagine what it must be like to try to check swing at 50 ounce, because once you got it started, you got to go. He hit tape-measured home runs, had a lifetime batting average well over 350, so he wasn't just a great power hitter. Mule Suttles was a great hitter with power. He left the coal mines of Alabama to go join the Birmingham Black Barons. But like a lot of rookies, in particular in the Negro Leagues, he didn't necessarily get all the attention that you deserve, even when you're a phenom like Mule Suttles was. Early on, the box scores had his name spelled improperly. They had him listed as Sellers instead of Suttles. So when Mule started to kick, they got the name right, and a superstar baseball career was born.
Thought it was a share at the bottom. How you think I feel on top now? How you think I feel? Magnificent.
I think one of the things that have oftentimes been misconstrued as it relates to the Negro Leagues is that they played against lesser competition. Well, that's absolutely not true. Within their own league, they were playing some of the best baseball that could be played. But they also played a number of exhibition games against major league teams or major league all-star teams. And in those games, Mule Suttles dominated. In an exhibition game against major leaguers, Big Jim Weaver asked shortstop Leo DeRocher how to pitch to the big slugger, and DeRocher answered, "Just pitch and pray." When Mule Suttles would come to the plate, fans would start to chant, "Kick, Mule, kick." They wanted to see their Mule Suttles do something special, and more times than not, he did. In the winters before and after the 1929 season, Mule Suttles played in Cuba, and he hit one of the legendary home runs of all time. A ball that sailed over 500 feet and landed in the ocean there in Cuba. Mule Suttles jumped ship in 1936 after the American Giants started to have some financial issues, and he landed with the great Newark Eagles, where he became 1/4 of one of the greatest infields of all time. It was called the $1 Million Infield. They were dynamite. He hit .396 with 36 home runs in 1936, a .420 batting average and 26 home runs in 1938, and a .325 batting average in 1939. Yeah, Mule felt quite comfortable with the Newark Eagles. In 2024, a historic milestone occurred when Major League Baseball rolled the status of the Negro Leagues into the record
That was huge, bro.
of Major League Baseball. It was a watershed moment, I dare say, not only for black baseball history and the history of the Negro Leagues, but I certainly believe for the history of our game and American history. And now Mule Suttles' career slugging
that's crazy.
ranks him 5th in baseball history at .621. His career OPS ranks 10th all-time. His career batting average ranks him 19th all-time in baseball history at .340. Mule Suttles was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He finally got a chance to cross over that threshold into baseball immortality in 2006, some 40 years after his death. Mule Suttles' $1 Million Infield teammate Dick Say summed it up pretty good. He said once he got that big bat started, you could feel the earth shake. Mule Suttles carried the wagon like very few ever did.
All right. There we have it.
John Henry Lloyd, who hailed from Palatka, Florida. Pop Lloyd was a five-tool superstar, without question one of the greatest Negro League players, and I think you can make a case of one of the greatest players in baseball history. A shortstop that hit cleanup, and he played for some great teams. Big man with great range, soft hands. When he played in Cuba, his nickname was El Cuchara, the tablespoon, because he could pick it as well. On our Field of Legends at the Negro League Baseball Museum, we actually have him at second base, even though his position was shortstop. But of course, if you played in the Negro League, you were going to play multiple positions. Pop Lloyd earned his nickname just in time because he would always get that runner at first, seemingly just in time. And he wanted to showcase that great arm. So he let you get almost beyond halfway down the line, you digging it, you think you got it, and pow, no you don't. And then he'd stand over there and he'd be grinning and laughing. And I'm sure it irritated the guys, but there's nothing you can do about it.
They mad cause I managed to reign so long, like they chance to get money done came and gone.
Pop Lloyd not only was a tremendously gifted athlete, Pop Lloyd was a student of the game. In 1910, John Henry Pop Lloyd matches up in an epic showdown series against Ty Cobb's Detroit Tigers. He hit .500 to lead all hitters. But what is also forgotten is that in that series, Pop Lloyd became one of the early pioneers of the shin guards. He had heard about the tenacious way in which Ty Cobb oftentimes would slide into second base. And so to protect himself, he had these steel inserts added to his socks. Legend has it that Ty slid in spikes high, and he connects with that steel shin guard, and man, he went flying across the infield. And so not only did he play brilliantly, he actually outsmarted some guys in that series as well.
Damn.
He was a very intelligent ball player, which why I do believe that he fit right in with Andrew Rupe Foster's Chicago American Giants. They reigned as Western champions 3 times during his 4-year tenure with the team. And who was in the middle of this? You guessed it, John Henry Pop Lloyd. The bigger the moment, the better John Henry Pop Lloyd was. Fellow Negro Leaguer and future Hall of Famer William Judy Johnson recalls a story that he heard recounted from the great Major League manager Connie Mack. Mack talked about Lloyd in comparison to Honus Wagner. And as Mack would so eloquently say, you could put them both in a bag, shake them up, pull one out, and whichever one you pulled out, you were going to be okay.
Either one you pull up says you wouldn't be cheated because he was a great ball player.
That, to me, exemplifies the rich talent that we're talking about with John Henry Pop Lloyd. The superstar players in the major leagues knew that the players in the Negro leagues could play. Honus Wagner, who has been widely regarded as the greatest major league shortstop, said it was an honor to be compared to Pop Lloyd. Babe Ruth called Lloyd the greatest baseball player he had ever seen. The one thing that we know, and this still holds true today, great athletes appreciate other great athletes. And the only way you can measure how good you are is by competing with and against the very best.
Does anybody know?
The nickname Pop was very befitting for John Henry Lloyd. Maybe early on, it was pop that came off of his bat. But in his later years, it was the wisdom that he brought to the table. He was a baseball lifer. He wanted to share his knowledge, perhaps the same way in which Ruth Foster shared that knowledge with him. He wanted to pass along that baseball knowledge to other young, aspiring players. And as a result, he endeared himself to so many kids thinking about playing this game, and he became Pop, a name that was certainly befitting of this great baseball player and baseball mentor.
I learned more about baseball that 1 year than all the years I played baseball. Right? He always had an encouraging word. He'd say, nice, son, nice going, son.
John Henry Pop Lloyd passed away on March 19th, 1964. 13 years later, he was immortalized with his induction in 1977 into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. One of the great nicknames in Negro Leagues baseball history, and there were some great nicknames, belong to one of the three women who called the Negro Leagues home. My dear friend, the late, great Mamie Peanut Johnson.
My love, we used to know you.
And she was a pitcher in the Negro Leagues with a strong right arm. She earned that nickname when the Monarchs' leadoff hitter looked out and said, how you expect to get anybody out? You ain't no bigger than a peanut. She was only 5'3", and she promptly struck him out.
You're out.
And she was Peanut from that day on. Born in 1935 in Ridgeway, South Carolina, Mamie Peanut Johnson had always loved the game of baseball. Bish Tyson, who had seen Mamie own the Sandlots there in South Carolina, who thought that she had a little extra something, and he encouraged her to give it a chance to try to play pro baseball. And so she took him up on this and ultimately landed a tryout with the Indianapolis Clowns, the same Indianapolis Clowns team that the legendary Henry Aaron began his career. And of course, by that time, the Clowns had already hired Toni Stone, the first female to play regularly in a male professional baseball league there with the Indianapolis Clowns. And Mamie makes the team, and history would be made, becoming the first female pitcher in professional baseball.
Me being the only woman pitcher out there, hey, that made me know that you are better in this than a whole lot of other people.
Yeah.
Mamie Johnson was a deceptively hard-throwing pitcher. I think that's what surprised a lot of the fellas, because you see this woman and you don't think that she can get it up there, and she got it up there in a hurry. But she also had a great repertoire of pitches, including, along with that fastball, a slider, circle change, and she'd even break off a screwball every now and then. And of course, she learned her curveball from the legendary Leroy Satchel Paige. She posted an incredible 33-8 record over her tenure with the Indianapolis Clowns. I know it's eye-raising, but it's true. And she would often talk about also earning the respect of the fellas. They didn't treat her like a woman playing on the team with them. They treated her like a ball player. And that was, for her, a tremendous badge of honor that went along with a tremendous record that she was able to post while playing in the Negro Leagues.
Jose Quintana, baby. Another one. Here we go.
People wanted to see Mamie Peanut Johnson take the mound. The word had started to spread about this tiny woman who was throwing this blazing fastball and getting these guys out. And so people wanted to naturally see this kind of phenomenon. She drew a huge fan base. Now, was the Clowns motivated by that? Of course they were. It certainly had a marketing slant to it. But what in business doesn't have a marketing slant? But it doesn't diminish the women's ability. Not only was Mamie Johnson a standout pitcher, she was an outstanding utility player. She would oftentimes fill in at second base. She could field her position. Obviously, she had a great arm at that position because she was already pitching. And of course, she could hit. The records kind of reflect somewhere between 260 and 285 over her playing career, which made her more than just a novelty. It made her a ball player. If you're familiar with the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, that was the league that was the inspiration for the hit film A League of Their Own. Mamie was denied an opportunity to try out because of the color of her skin and the belief that black did not represent beauty. But as fate would have it, she would get an even better opportunity to compete with and against the men in the Negro Leagues with the Indianapolis Clowns. But if you ever saw that film, you might recall one scene near the end of the film where the ball kind of gets loose when they're practicing and this black lady is walking by and she picks it up and she fires it back in and everybody's astounded at how hard she threw the ball. Well, the late, great Penny Marshall directed that film. That was her tribute to Mamie Peanut Johnson.
I never knew that.
Baseball gave me a sense of responsibility. I learned to be somebody.
Mamie Peanut Johnson epitomizes the kind of athlete that called the Negro Leagues home. You see, there's been this misnomer that these athletes were vagabonds, tramps, hobos, illiterate. That's not true. Mamie Peanut Johnson studied at NYU, and Mamie Peanut Johnson would have a 3-decade-long career in nursing, helping others, taking care of others. That is what made Mamie Johnson not just a standout baseball player, but a standout human being. That is why her story is such a powerful, prominent story that we are proud to share at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
There we go. Damn, shot in 2017. Damn, Bob Kendrick's back.
One of the favorite guys that I like to talk about at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum was the great Willard Jesse Brown. Willard Brown was a bit of an enigma because he was so supremely talented. But there are those who believe that even though he is in the National
Hall of Famer W,
that his talent was still not always fulfilled. Born in Shreveport, Louisiana in 1915, I guess you could say that it was destiny that Willard Brown would play for the Kansas City Monarchs. He had been around baseball all his life. And of course, the Monarchs would oftentimes spring train in his hometown of Shreveport, where young Willard Brown would be a bat boy for the Kansas City Monarchs.
Really?
That would lead him to become a star. No. A superstar outfielder for the great Kansas City Monarchs. In Puerto Rico, Willard Brown's nickname was Ese Hombre, that man. Oh, the fans would start chanting when he came to the plate. Ese Hombre, Ese Hombre. He was a 5-tool superstar when he came to play.
Don't let nobody tell you can't do what you want to do in life. You feel me?
Bro, this whole office they have is so cool. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
When Josh Gibson nicknamed you Home Run Brown, you must have some power. Josh knew as well as anyone the exceptional set of skills that Willard Brown had. Along with his legendary nicknames, Willard Brown had a little less flattering nickname, Sonny, because he liked to show up on Sunday games. You've heard me say that black folks would leave church dressed to the nines, headed to those Sunday doubleheaders. And when we filled the stands, Willard Brown would put on a show. But sometimes when there was less attendance, you wouldn't always get the most from Willard Brown. As a matter of fact, he would occasionally have a Reader's Digest in his back pocket.
Ain't no way, bro.
Now, maybe there was a scouting report in that Reader's Digest, who knows? But it does make you wonder, had he been more interested, how much better he would have been for a guy who had a lifetime batting average of 351.
God damn.
Oh, but when the lights were on, you wouldn't find anybody better than Willard Brown. And it was evidence in the 2 World Series that he played in with the Kansas City Monarchs in 1942. Willard Brown was a big, big star in that World Series.
Oh, great music right here.
Would join his teammate, Hank Thompson, to go integrate the St. Louis Browns in 1947.
There you go.
And I do believe that the St. Louis Browns thought that Thompson and Brown would do for their ball club what Jackie had done for the Brooklyn Dodgers. But as Willard Brown would acknowledge, the St. Louis Browns were basically a baseball sideshow. He knew that he had left a team in the Kansas City Monarchs that was far better than the St. Louis Browns.
Damn.
But to give you an indication of Willard Brown's welcome to the major leagues, the story has it that he had arrived to the Browns and he didn't have his own bat yet. And he borrows a teammate's bat. And he hit an inside the park home run. But when he gets back to the dugout, what happens? The teammate broke the bat.
Damn.
Yeah, welcome to the major leagues.
Yeah, it's pretty bad back then, I ain't gonna lie.
Willard Brown never got the opportunity to go back and join a major league team. Don't let the fact that he didn't make it in Major League Baseball fool you into believing that he couldn't play. Willard Brown, like a lot of Negro leaguers, had trouble adjusting to the social conditions that they had to perform under. Willard Brown was a 5-tool superstar, and we're very fortunate. We have Willard Brown's Puerto Rican Hall of Fame plaque on display at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And can you imagine to leave your home country and create this level of stardom? And in Puerto Rico, he was the man. Willard Brown won the Triple Crown in Puerto Rico twice. His Puerto Rican Winter League home run record of 27 in 60 games still stands to this day.
Bro, it's like a home run every game.
Of the fans of Puerto Rico carrying their beloved Willard Brown on their shoulders as they're leaving the ballpark. When he came ready to play, there was no one better than S.A. Hombre.
Damn. Dude, that's honestly insane, bro. 27 home runs in 60 games is literally... They don't even do that in 2020? Lock in.
Someone gave me a baseball at an early age. And it was my companion for a long time. I carried it in my pocket. I slept with it under my pillow. I always wanted to pitch. That was the late, great Smokey Joe Williams.
Here I go, coming live again.
A 6'5" flamethrower from Seguin, Texas. When your nickname is Smokey and/or Cyclone, it probably means that you threw it pretty hard.
First, they stopped by the candy store, but then shot 4 bag treats.
It seemed that no single catcher could handle the heat that Smokey Joe brought up there. By the 5th inning, their hands were beaten up, and you would have to bring in your secondary catcher to catch
that
Smokey
sound
Joe.
effect.
Think about the rocket fuel of a Roger Clemens, combined with a little dash of Nolan Ryan and the control of Satchel Paige, and Smokey Joe was just that, a phenomenon. Like the late, great Bullet Rogan, Smokey Joe also pitched with a no wind-up delivery. And
Damn,
with that
really?
no wind-up delivery, that thing just exploded on the hitters. But Smokey Joe had the full repertoire of pitches to go with that blazing fastball. And so when you can get it up there in a hurry like he did, you've got to sit dead red. And then he could drop a changeup and have guys completely off balance. That was the brilliance of Smokey Joe Williams.
I'ma do all that I gotta do. Go back to my hood. They say that
Another flamethrower. Bro, no wonder he threw so fast without no lineup, bro. He's 6'5".
back outside, riding my whip and rodeo drive.
How impressive was Smokey Joe Williams? Not just against Negro League competition, but against Major League competition. How about a 20-7 record against white Major League teams? His first showdown was in 1912 when he shut out the world champion New York Giants 6-0. The second matchup was in 1915 when he struck out 10 Philadelphia Phillies while throwing a 3-hit shutout.
Damn.
Joe's third extraordinary performance came in 1917 when he struck out 20 batters while no-hitting the New York Giants, although he lost the game 1-0 on an error.
Damn.
Yeah, those are video game numbers, but those numbers are absolutely real. The legendary Ty Cobb, after seeing Williams do his thing, said that he was looking at a sure 30-game winner if he had been allowed to play in the major leagues. That Smokey Joe Williams was one of the best pitchers this game has ever seen.
But I will not fold, impressing me. So watch my vision, see what I see.
On August 2nd, 1930, on a hot, humid night in Kansas City. Yes, I said night, because, as you know, it would be the Kansas City Monarchs who would pioneer night baseball in 1930, 5 years before the major leagues played under the lights. This featured an epic pitching duel between the legendary Smokey Joe Williams and the great Chet Brewer, and it did not let anyone down. The two combatants struck out 46 guys in that game. The incredible Smokey Joe Williams would strike out 27 Monarchs in 12 innings. Chet Brewer matched them pitch for pitch, but ultimately, Smokey Joe Williams came out victorious, winning that game 1-0 in one of the greatest pitching duels in baseball history.
We're into the 12th inning?
Universe wrote my song, I'm just ad-libbing it. I don't gotta say too much.
If you want to draw a comparison to Smokey Joe Williams with, I guess you could say, a major league contemporary, think Randy Johnson. Now, I know Randy Johnson was a left-hander, but Smokey Joe was a right-handed version of Randy Johnson. And I'm still not sure that the Negro Leagues gets enough credit for its great pitchers. When we start to talk about hurlers like Bullet Rogan, Leon Day, the immortal Leroy Satchel Paige, I'm talking about some of the greatest arms to ever toe the rubber. In the minds of many, Smokey Joe Williams is arguably the greatest pitcher in black baseball history. In the twilight of Smokey Joe's career, while playing then for the Homestead Grays, Williams actually beat the immortal Leroy Satchel Paige 2 out of 3 games. Now, at that time, Satchel was 30 years younger than Smokey Joe Williams. Smokey Joe died in 1951. He was posthumously inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1999.
There you go. There you go, chap. Yeah, just phenomenal on these cutscenes. They do such. I mean, the cutscene quality has gotten better and better every single year. It's actually insane.
When guests come to visit the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and they take the iconic Field of Legends, I always get excited about introducing that all-star team to our guests. And of course, at third base, from Richmond, Virginia, the legendary Ray Dandridge.
Dandridge. He might have played in the league, actually.
AKA Hooks, Squatty, and his teammates would say that his legs were so bold that you could drive a train between his legs, but a baseball would never get between them. He could flat out pick it at the hot corner as well as anyone ever picked it. Ray Dandridge early on had a tendency to sit back and allow the ball to come to him. And occasionally the runners would beat that out.
He's safe.
The great Boot June Wilson took a young Ray Dandridge and he started to tutor him. He says, son, you attack the ball. And Ray Dandridge took that advice to heart. He started charging those balls hit down the third base line, and he'd throw that thing in there with some pop and get them almost every single time. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more masterful third baseman than Ray Dandridge. He had all the tools, great range, a great arm, and velvety hands to go with tremendous instincts.
It's crazy he wasn't in like the launch.
Ray Dandridge made up the fourth part of that $1 million infield while playing for the Newark Eagles. George Mule Suttles at first base, Dick Say at second base, of course, Willie Wells at shortstop, and Dandy over at third base. Now, he didn't start initially at the hot corner. He was a shortstop. And Dandridge struggled a little bit, and it was the great Dick Lundy that ultimately said, I'm gonna move you over to third base. When the regular third baseman didn't show up on time to begin the season, he never got his job back because Ray Dandridge took to third base and third base took to him. And Dandy made a career over at the hot corner.
Gold glove, baby.
Well, Ray Dandridge never lacked for self-confidence. He would even acknowledge that as a youngster, he was a little cocky. In a game against the Pittsburgh Crawfords, Ray Dandridge decided that he was going to mess with the old man, the legendary Leroy Satchel Paige. And so the two locker rooms were right there next to one another. He sees Satchel, and he's giving Satchel the business.
We play double hitters here. Satchel both pitcher Mexican. You next, we gonna get you and just get around.
When the game starts, Dandridge realizes, wait a minute now, I might have made a mistake here messing with the old man. Because in the Negro Leagues, the way they played the game, they were gonna send you a message. And Satchel instantly sent him a message. He threw him one right up underneath his chin. Ray Dandridge ducked out of the way, but Dandridge actually said that that chin music kind of relaxed him. And so he musters up the courage to step back in the batter's box. Satchel throws him one, Dandridge lines it and gets a base hit. And I guess you could say the legend of Ray Dandridge began that day, because when you can do that against the old man, I think you automatically know you belong. And Ray Dandridge absolutely belonged.
It's all
I know that it is difficult to say that a guy in the Hall of Fame is underrated, but Ray Dandridge, y'all, very much underrated. In 1949, when Dandridge joined the Minneapolis Millers, the New York Giants AAA team, he was selected as Rookie of the Year. The following season, he was named MVP after leading the Millers to the championship, hitting .311 with 195 hits, 80 RBIs, and 106 runs scored when he was almost 38 years old. And when a young Willie Mays makes it up to Minneapolis, who was there to help mentor him? Ray Dandridge. Ray Dandridge was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1987. He is one of the few Negro leaguers who were still alive to take their moment in the sun.
I love the game of baseball.
And I hope now today look like baseball of me. My only question is, why did you take so long?
Ray Dandridge said, "I'd always wanted to say that I came from the cornfields and got to the major leagues. That was my biggest dream." You see, there was no room in the major leagues for a 38-year-old anything, no less a 38-year-old black third baseman. So he never really got the opportunity to fulfill that dream of playing in the major leagues. But Ray Dandridge was able to say,
He came from the cornfields of Virginia and went to the Hall of Fame.
Back outside, riding my whip and Rodeo Drive. Shawty, I step like Fredo. I ain't gon' stay on
Damn. That was a good one. That was a good one. Damn, all these have been fire, bro. All of them have been fire, dude. They're all so good. Let's get it, go.
born in Shawnee, Oklahoma, but lived and died in Austin, Texas, was one of the greatest shortstops, not in black baseball history, but in baseball history, Willie James Wells.
No, music be hitting.
Or El Diablo, as he was known particularly in Mexico, a 5-tool superstar in the Negro Leagues, because he was a power-hitting shortstop. And even though he drew comparisons to another guy who played in St. Louis, who many baseball fans celebrate, and rightfully so, the Wizard, the great Ozzie Smith.
Yep.
Willie Wells was making those same kinds of acrobatic plays well before we ever knew who the Wizard was, but Willie Wells brought power to that position. A rare commodity for a guy who only stood about 5'7" and weighed less than 170 pounds. And while he didn't have an exceptionally strong throwing arm, he had a quick release and had great hands, great range, and he could just get rid of that ball as fast as anyone has ever done it. That's part of the reason that you would hear the Mexican players tell you, don't hit it to shortstop because El Diablo is over there. Yeah, that was Willie Wells.
Can you break there with me? Why you switch phone numbers like...
Bro, they do such a good job of like making the song work with what he said. I don't know, they do an incredible job at that. I'm not gonna lie.
The late great Buck O'Neil was doing an interview and a reporter asked him, he said, Mr. O'Neil, how do you hit a great curveball? And Buck's response was, by not missing the fastball.
Fair enough.
And so Willie Wells, like a lot of ball players, struggled initially with hitting the curveball.
You're out!
But Willie Wells was able to make the adjustment, and whether it was curveballs, fastballs, or any other kind of ball you wanted to throw, Willie Wells seemed to have an answer for virtually everything that the pitchers threw up there. And at age 22 in 1927, Wells homered 23 times to lead the Negro National League. And Wells led St. Louis to their first title in 1928. Willie Wells had emerged as a true offensive star to couple with his great defensive abilities. Willie Wells was a member of the vaunted $1 million infield that included Mule Suttles, Dick Say, and Ray Dandridge. And Willie Wells was known not only as El Diablo, but the Shakespeare of shortstops. It was theater. It was poetry in motion.
Let's go lock in.
Not commonly known is that Willie Wells is the guy who is credited with having invented the batting helmet.
What?
The story
really?
That a notorious spitball pitcher named Bill Bird beamed Willie Wells, hit him in the head, knocked him unconscious. Of course, the medical staff told him that, no, you can't play the next day. You're going to have to sit the game out. Now, you have to understand, this is in the playoffs. And apparently, they did not know how tenacious Willie Wells was. And Willie Wells comes back the next day, and he has a construction helmet, kind of taped around his head, and that would become the early advent of the batting helmet.
Ain't no way, bro.
Willie Wells was an absolute student of this game. He was a baseball lifer, and his impact moves well beyond the field because he taught a lot of guys the intricacies of this game, including teaching Jackie Robinson how to turn the double play. When we talk about the likes of Jackie Robinson, Don Newcomb, Monty Irvin, if they were with us, they would all tell you that they owe a great deal of their Major League Baseball success to Willie Wells.
Back outside, riding my whip and Rodeo Drive.
Damn, bro.
Like Fredo.
Like, you literally would never know that. Like, this is why I like playing storylines, bro. Then we'll check out the update.
Yeah, I got it.
Just like my dear friend, the late, great Hall of Famer Monty Irvin, who said he never felt more freer in his entire life than he did when he went to Mexico. Willie Wells found that same freedom, and it was so interesting that you would have to go abroad to be treated the way that you should have been treated at home. You see, in Mexico, Willie Wells wasn't a black baseball player. Willie Wells was just a baseball player. And that's all the players in the Negro Leagues ever wanted to be. Willie Wells had a rare triple feat when he was recognized with induction into the Mexican
that's cool,
Baseball
bro.
Hall of
Let's
Fame,
go.
the Cuban Baseball
Damn,
Hall of
hold on
Fame,
now.
and of course,
Cooperstown.
took his place in the National Baseball
Let's
Hall
go,
of Fame
baby.
in 1997. Shortly
I
thereafter,
fucking love this sport.
the city of Austin recognized one of his very own heroes by naming a street for him, and most recently named a ballpark for him. The very field that he played high school baseball on has now been renamed Willie Wells Field.
Damn.
The city of St. Louis saw two of the greatest shortstops to ever play this game. One, the acrobatic flair and style of the Wizard, Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith. The other, who played in the Negro Leagues, but brought that same level of flair and the acrobatic style, the great Willie James.
Damn, bro, what a
Wells.
story, bro. That was a good one, bro. I actually like that one a lot.
Don't let anybody tell you can't do what you want to do in life. You feel me? You feel me?
Where's that bar at the end? Get it, let go, lock in. Come on now.
In a league filled with colorful characters, none was more colorful than the late, great Ted Double Duty Radcliffe.
In 2005, damn, he lived long, bro.
Double Duty earned his
102?
nickname when the great sports writer Damon Runyon saw
Hunter
Duty
Brown.
catch a Satchel Paige shutout in the first game of a doubleheader.
Call Satchel Paige.
Duty took off his catcher's gear and took the mound and threw
Damn.
a shutout in the second game
Aura
of the
chat,
doubleheader.
aura.
And Runyon said he was worth the price
look at
of
those
2
tickets.
admissions. He was nicknamed Double Duty from that day on, and behind the plate he was masterful. As a matter of fact, he would inscribe on his chest protector, "Thou shalt not steal."
Yeah.
Duty was an outstanding catcher. He knew how to handle his pitches, and of course, he gave them heck around the plate. He was always a chatterbox, so he's talking to the opposing hitters. He's doing everything that you could to distract them. Now, he had some moxie and some confidence, but he also had an arm to back it up. And Duty was an outstanding pitcher who threw hard, had a tremendous repertoire of pitches that he leaned on as well. Double Duty is one of those great two-way stars of the Negro League.
There we go. Another two-way player, man. Everyone's a two-way player, basically, so.
It's not a coincidence that Double Duty Radcliffe played on 3 of the
Grays.
greatest teams in black baseball history in 3 consecutive years. When he was traded to the St. Louis Stars in 1930, it led to his breakout year as a pitcher, as a catcher, as well as a hitter.
Damn.
And then the Homestead Grays of 1931, a team that featured Josh Gibson,
Go.
Oscar Charleston, and the legendary
Go.
Smokey Joe Williams, is the team that Double Duty selects as the greatest baseball team of all time.
Damn.
And you know what? few would argue with that assessment. And finally, with the Pittsburgh Crawfors of 1932. Double duty was part of some of the most legendary teams in Negro Leagues history.
There we go. Yeah, he also played in like the 30s as well, man.
To give you an indication of just how much Double Duty and his comrades in the Negro Leagues love the game, because we talk about this all the time. They played for the love of the game, and they absolutely loved the game. Number one, they had to love it in order to endure the things that they had to endure. But when you talk to them, they wanted you to know about the joy that they had playing this game. And so one of my favorite quotes from Ted Double Duty Radcliffe is highlighted in the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and it essentially says that every 4th of July, we would play 4 games. He would catch 2 and pitch 2 and sleep 35 minutes in between games.
Brother, what?
You got to love it.
Bro, 4 games in one day? Nah, see, that's crazy, bro. Last one.
It's still in San Diego as they sleep in San Antonio.
In 1950, at the age of 48, Double Duty ended his Negro Leagues career as a player-manager for the Chicago American Giants. In the 1960s, he would go on to scout for the team we now know as the Cleveland Guardians. But he also formed a close relationship with the Chicago White Sox. It wasn't uncommon to walk into the ballpark and there was Ted Double Duty Radcliffe meeting and greeting fans.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Talking smack. He never stopped. And maybe that's why he lived to be 103.
Dude, that is crazy.
And his grave marker includes illustrations of both a pitcher and a catcher with a baseball in between. Very fitting for Double Duty. And as the Negro League Baseball Museum's late chairman Buck O'Neill would say, Double Duty was a great catcher who threw hard, was an outstanding pitcher, and he was a wonderful contributor to this game. And if Buck O'Neill says you should be in the Hall of Fame, that's all that matters to me. I fully concur that Ted Double Duty Radcliffe should be in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and I hope it happens sometime soon.
Bro, he lived to 103, bro. That's insane, chat. That is literally insane, bro. 103.
One of the beautiful things about the inclusion of the Negro Leagues into MLB The Show has been that it has introduced a bevy of great stars who are now part of the imaginations of so many who love playing this game. And so we introduce you to some household names. But what I love is we also introduce you to some lesser-known players.
Let's get it. 1882? Oh my God, bro.
Born in Culpeper, Virginia in 1882, Preston Pete Hill was a 5'8" 170-pound dynamo, a bundle of energy, who just happened to be one of the greatest hitters this game has ever seen. Think Tony Gwynn with power, and you've got Preston Pete Hill.
Interesting.
And he was an exceptional defensive outfielder with a rifle arm. The perfect blend of power, speed, and of course, that pesky energy that drove pitchers crazy. The things that you saw Jackie Robinson do when he got to the major leagues, dancing off of the bases, Pete Hill was doing that several decades before Jackie Robinson made it to the major leagues.
That's crazy.
Pete Hill played in the early era of black baseball, well before Rube Foster formed his Negro National League in Kansas City in 1920. Thanks to the work of Negro League historians and researchers, it has now given us an opportunity to tout the talent of those early black baseball stars. Pete Hill was one of those.
Man, bro. Here we go.
Rest up, wake up, do it again.
Not only was Pete Hill an exceptionally gifted athlete, Pete Hill was an exceptionally smart baseball player. That's probably why Rube Foster would peg him to become a captain of his team. Pete Hill was an exceptional hitter. Great knowledge of how to hit. But what made Pete Hill even better was that he could do this in the clutch.
That's important.
He was as clutch a hitter as you will ever see in black baseball history.
Damn.
Described by the legendary Ben Taylor as the most dangerous man in a pinch in baseball at that time.
And what are those uniforms, by the way? Oh my God.
Pete Hill could absolutely rake. His 1919 season is a great indication of the power that this dynamo possessed. On April 27, 1919, Hill performed a feat duplicated only once before at Mack Park when he hit one over the center field fence. Pete Hill finished the season with 28 home runs.
Good season.
One less than the Bambino.
Damn.
In Major League Baseball that year, no one besides Ruth hit more than 10 home runs. Pete Hill's 28 home runs certainly puts that in perspective. The power was incredible.
Last one.
Yeah. You stupid. Back like they never left.
The one thing we know, and this has never changed in our game, the players know who can play and who can't play. And Pete Hill earned the admiration not only of his teammates, but his peers. And the legendary Cumberland Posey in 1944 selected Hill to his all-time All-Star team, called him the most consistent hitter of his lifetime. Pete Hill was a five-tool player before we even called it a five-tool player. Hit the power, hit the average, could field, could run, could throw. He was tremendous at the plate. Great eye. Contact hitter with power. But Pete Hill played a flawless outfield. He could go get it with the best of them. And he had an arm that would rival some of the greatest arms in this game. In 2006, Pete Hill was one of the 17 Negro League players and/or executives who moved across that threshold into baseball immortality with their induction into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And for early black baseball history, for the history of the Negro Leagues, and I do believe for baseball history, this was a tremendous accomplishment. And certainly for the Hill family. It brought a level of prestige and joy to their loved ones, and rightfully so.
There you go, baby.
Tell me where you from. Tell me
wow, one of the OGs, bro. And he's in the hall. He's in the hall too, Chad. That's pretty good. All right, there we go. We are done with storylines in MLB The Show 26, man. All three drops have been here, man. Probably my favorite one in this game, dude. There are some good ones. Like Mule's was very good. Pop Lloyd's with the shin guard was very good. Dandridge's was pretty cool. Williams was cool. There's a lot of good ones, man. My favorite one, I'd probably still have to say, is Pop Lloyd, bro. The fact that he made the shin guard is pretty cool. The Willie Wells was cool with him making the helmet. I'd probably say Wells and Pop Lloyd are probably the best ones. Man, storylines is always fun to play, chat. It's always a good mode, bro. I love playing storylines.